Royal secret hidden in an old hotel. Employees attempted to sneak it out. Bob flicked his flashlight across the room and felt his heartbeat increase. There had to be something up here that was making noises, right? Abruptly, he noticed a hazy motion passing through the aged ceiling planks. Up there was something, or someone. In a hurry, he dropped his flashlight and it died, engulfing the entire room in darkness. Bob was alone, with whatever was embedded in the ceiling. This was it. There was no turning back. Welcome to USA Stories channel. Do not forget to subscribe and activate the bell button to receive all new updates. Now let's go to the story. Bob Jones was an average person living in an average small town. He had spent 10 years of his life at his house with his wife, Linda. It was the house they intended to live in together for the rest of their lives, their everlasting home. However, Bob and Linda were unaware of what might be hidden within their forever house. Bob and Linda, newlyweds, happened to stumble upon a house 10 years ago that they felt they had to buy. It met all of their requirements for a first-time home. It had an amazing open-plan living area, 4 bedrooms, an attic, and a sizable garden. However, the estate agent had omitted to disclose a crucial detail about this mansion that would shatter Bob and Linda's entire existence. Bob and Linda jumped at the chance to purchase the house, and they moved in shortly after. Thus, Bob and Linda continued to reside in their house 10 years later, along with 2 children. However, something was going to happen in this house that would make Bob and Linda run out the door and swear they would never come back. The sound of rustling and thuds in the middle of the night had been waking Bob for the last few weeks. He didn't give it much thought at first, supposing it might just be the wind. But the noises carried on like clockwork every night. Bob dismissed it, but as it turned out, he shouldn't have. Bob initially believed it to be bees in his attic. There was a faint buzzing sound and the sound of something rustling. Then it occurred to him that it might be rats. It wasn't bees or rats, as Bob didn't realize at the time, but something far worse was hiding in his attic. The noises persisted for 2 weeks after that. It got to the point that Bob and Linda were experiencing difficulty falling asleep. Bob was no longer able to ignore the commotion above their bedroom. He had to make his own investigation, but he had no idea what was waiting for him in the attic. Bob lowered the ladder and ascended the attic slowly. He could feel his heartbeat in his throat with every movement. It took a lot to make him sweat. He was not easily startled or afraid. But Bob was going to turn white as a ghost over what he was about to learn. Using his flashlight and laser-focused vision, he looked around the attic, but nothing appeared unusual. Boxes and boxes of nostalgia and recollections surrounded him. Then, all of a sudden, he heard a rustle and a thump. It was approaching him directly from behind. Bob spun around quickly and was shocked to see nothing. Was he perceiving sounds? Shaking his head, he resumed his quest. Eventually, they brought him into the utility room, where everything would become clear. But Bob was not prepared to discover what he did. The noises increased significantly when they were in the utility room. Bob was obviously approaching the source of the sounds. His heart stopped when he noticed hazy motion coming through the aged ceiling slats as he glanced around. Up there was something, or someone. Bob was trying to get a better look at whatever was in the ceiling when he felt panic start to run down his spine. He spotted it there, just where he shined his light. A horrible sensation struck his lower abdomen. Out of astonishment and terror, he dropped his flashlight and the light went out. The whole room was engulfed in darkness. Bob and the object in the ceiling were the only 2 in the room. This was it. There was no turning back. Bob fumbled for his flashlight, but it was completely dark in the room. The sound of rustling was growing louder. Was the object in the room now, or the ceiling? Screaming for Linda, he made a beeline for the utility room, went back into the attic, and descended the ladder in an instant. Was it too late to tell her, even though he knew he had to? His wife was left feeling nauseous after he told her the truth about what was in the attic. How were they not aware of it? However, Bob was aware that he had to get everything on tape in order for anyone to believe him. Equipped with his camera, he headed back up to the terrifying attic. Bob felt his blood run cold, first in the utility room and then back in the attic. Bob tried to remain as cool as possible while he filmed the monster in the ceiling, appearing as expected. He hurried out of the room to show his wife the video. They were both experiencing extreme nausea. They were running out of time, but they knew they had to call in an expert. The object in the ceiling would eventually find its way inside the house in a matter of days. After Bob and Linda finally called an expert, an officer showed up at their house. However, while inspecting the utility room and attic, the officer found nothing. Bob had either been having hallucinations or the object in the attic had moved inside the house. When Bob played the video for the police to see that he wasn't making it up, the officer's jaw fell. This cop had worked for 20 years and had never seen anything like it. The officer realized he couldn't waste any more time after seeing the video. He had to be honest with Bob and Linda about the situation in the attic. Bob and Linda were informed by the officer that the object in their attic was, in reality, a massive, deadly snake. They needed to leave. Now was the time for them to take action. The slithering snake was recognized by the Sarasota Animal Control Officer as a diamondback rattlesnake, and these snakes should not be handled. Their poison is extremely lethal and powerful. "That snake up there will kill you," the police warned Bob and Linda, gesturing to their ceiling. Unfortunately, the Animal Control Center officer's second attempt to capture the lethal snake ended in failure. This snake was intelligent. It was aware that it was being pursued. But who could capture it if Animal Control was unable to? Even their nephew, who Bob and Linda asked, was unable to identify it. Bob had one more thought at that point because it was their last option. Bob called a family friend, Mark Lampard, to ask if he could come try to capture the poisonous snake. See, Mark knew the most hazardous animals on the planet. He had searched every corner of the world for ferocious creatures. He appeared like the appropriate candidate for this task, but was he able to capture it? Mark volunteered to come help Bob and Linda with the writhing serpent in the attic, like any man with a penchant for lethal animals. He searched their house for it for 3 hours. Nevertheless, Mark discovered that the snake had been residing with Bob and Linda for some time when he found a massive fragment of dried shed skin in the attic. Finally, after a tiring and protracted afternoon of hunting down the ferocious viper, Mark caught it. When he pulled the snake's tail from the ceiling, it fell with a thud. Nevertheless, Mark quickly realized that the animal control officer had misidentified this snake. Instead of a lethal rattlesnake, this snake was simply a Colombian red-tailed boa constrictor. This snake is not poisonous, but it is nevertheless regarded as hazardous. It does, however, have powerful muscles and razor-sharp fangs that choke other animals. However, precisely how did this snake enter Bob and Linda's house? Bob and Linda learned from Mark that boas are semi-arboreal, which means they can climb trees. He claimed that the tree branches were how the boa got onto the roof. Bob and Linda continued to sleep with one eye open, even though animal control quickly removed the snake and happily, no one was harmed. You never truly know what's in your attic after all. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our videos. If you enjoyed the tale, the next video that plays on your screen will probably move you too.